Hey guys, Nick here. Welcome to the Omniverse of Nick and the next Dragon Ball story on the channel. Two parts. What if the Tuffles killed the Saiyans? Before we get started, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick, and check out the About tab and homepage so you don't miss anything for the Omniverse's future. With all that said, let's begin. So we open up with this being kind of at first a story, but now I say it's probably one of the best, even though it's two parts. And like Bardock's Super Saiyan, that's a rarity for Dragon Ball stories, that I literally do something so small. But you'll understand why. So, for those not aware, the Tuffles were a scientific genetic race, and no matter how much they had or how smart they were or how good their weapons were, when the Saiyans attacked their planet, everything was destroyed. And Planet Plant eventually became Planet Vegeta. But this wouldn't stop future Tuffles from making appearances, like Dr. Raichi, the Parpar brothers, Dr. Mew, Baby, General Rildo, Hachiak, variants that look like Tuffles from other universes, including Super Dragon Ball Heroes having Orin and Kameen, and so on and so on. The main two strongest that you want to pay attention to, especially as to the main reason why this is two parts, is Baby and Hachiak. But we would see so much more for the Saiyans. A lot more. But this wouldn't stop the Tuffles from trying to make their mark. But they never did. What if that was changed? What if we just took out the Saiyans? Literally every Saiyan. And if the Tuffles actually managed to beat them, what would happen? And how would Universe 7 operate without its literally main core race? Especially no Goku. Let's get into it. So we open up with King Vegeta and the Saiyans, long time before Cold or Frieza, staging an attack on Planet Plant and the Tuffle race. And when they do, it's almost a slaughter. But the Tuffles still put up a great fight with their weapons, their tech, and everything at their disposal. But nothing seems to be phasing them. But then they bring out a weapon that is very dangerous, and if used the wrong way, it could destroy their own planet. And it was honestly a forbidden weapon that they almost made by mistake. It is a literal, let's call it the insta-death ray, for sake of simplicity. And this weapon can only be fired once, and if it misses or, shoots in the wrong way, like I just said, it could destroy the planet. This was an accidental weapon. Hey, they're made. So they bring this out and they fire it, but the beam is much larger than they thought it was going to be and much more destructive. This not only kills King Vegeta, but literally every single other Saiyan. That's it. And with that, the Tuffles literally just saved their planet while almost dooming it. Meanwhile, in the main base of the Tuffles, a new genetic mind begins to form and introduce himself. Dr. Mew. And he says, now the age of the Saiyans is done. Let the age of the Tuffles continue to prosper. And this means there's going to be no Goku, no Vegeta, no Nappa, no Raditz, no Gohan, no Goten, no Trunks, no Bardock, no King Vegeta, no Broly, no Paragus, nothing. None of that. We are getting no Saiyans at all. None. So, yeah. Eventually, Cold finds out about Planet Plant, which I think at some point would be renamed to Planet Tuffle, or, or just stick with Planet Plant. It really doesn't matter. All you need to know is Saiyans didn't take it over, Tuffles still live on it. Cold eventually finds out about it, and Dr. Mew comes in person to meet him in the middle of the planet, like the base, or like maybe a bunker, or just some part of the planet that's like remotely, that's where the main like mines are. And Cold sees that these people are far smarter and have way more tech and advanceability than he has probably ever seen in his many years of living. After all, they were able to kill a race as strong as the Saiyans, and he had even thought about making them work for him and the Cold Empire. But now that he sees that the Tuffles were able to, he hopes to broach a deal with the Tuffle kind if they work for him. And he's sure that they won't refuse, because why would they? He's not looking to destroy their planet or harm them. He merely wishes to test their science and broach a deal that works for both parties. Dr. Mew says we've already had one race try to take and destroy everything we've had. But if this deal you say is to be broached peacefully, then I believe we can work something out, provided that it's actually beneficial to the Tuffle kind. And this means Dr. Mew and Cold shake hands, and the Cold Empire and the Tuffles have officially formed a partnership, with Cold definitely eventually seeing this as a different way. But he was always seemingly the nicer of the Cold family compared to like Frieza, Frost, Cooler, but he was still a Frost tyrant, so it's not like he's doing this just to broach a deal, you know? But he did say that Frieza has a way more bigger temper than him, so it's debatable, but you'll see why it doesn't matter. Dr. Mew in secret, though, knows that this deal cannot last. And he knows that at some point, considering what he could detect and analyze from King Cold, because Dr. Mew has the analyzation. He's a freaking machine mutant himself. So, of course, he would be able to, like, maybe see some kind of deception in Cold, or just tell from his posture and who he is that this deal cannot and will not last. Eventually, they'll turn on the Tuffles, and it'll be no different than the Saiyans. So, he begins to work harder than he ever has before, and with the Tuffles all across Planet Plant, this begins a long, thorough bunch of decades into deep research and building. Eventually, the machine mutants are created, all the ones that we saw in GT. And then the Sigma Force is created, and then others, like Orin and Kameen, who I'm going to actually canonize here. General Rildo, Lord Lude in the beginning phases, because I'm definitely not going to go as far as saying that, like, he's level 3. You know, Lude's a freaking basically destroyer. But he is a project on the back burner for now, as like a secret weapon. Speaking of secret weapons, Baby is created. And as I said, Orin and Kameen are actually put into relegation here. And either they would be banished out, as their little side story said, or they would be used as like 2 of the main guards for the Tuffle planet. Something like that. But I'm going to go ahead and say that maybe they still get sent off because of how the Tuffles were. But honestly, who knows? It's Super Dragon Ball Heroes. Giru is also never cast to another planet and gets amnesia, and he actually serves Dr. Mew faithfully. So, yeah, we're basically getting an evil Giru, but this is the last time you're going to see him. But trust me, I have a story or two for Giru. Just know he's part of the Tuffle planet. Legic is also an assassin for the Tuffle planet and is put on a different side of the world to specifically analyze and make sure that he can do his job. Then, another scientific mind comes across Dr. Mew on the planet and says he thinks he can offer a lot more than what Dr. Mew is trying to build, especially if the so-called deal with the Frost Tyrant army comes to a bad hand. And he eventually puts in the research and the build for himself and makes himself the ghost form of Dr. Raichi. And he shows the back burner project that he has been working on ever since the Saiyans attacked Hachiak. And with this, we get another partnership formed between Dr. Raichi and Dr. Mew. And now they know, with all this that they've been working on, when the day comes and the deal goes south, they'll be ready. And they're going to wish, the Frost Tyrants are going to wish that they had never come across the Tuffle race. Eventually, Cold would return for checkups and more or less seeing how the Tuffles do under his reign. But he wouldn't really check so very often. Cold was very laid back. But eventually, one day, him and a huge fleet of an army, Zarbon, Dodoria, Kui, Ginyu Force, etc., they show up on the planet. And they're not alone. King Cold introduces Frieza, his son, and says that he is retiring, and the Cold clan will now be the Frieza clan, or the Frieza Force. And Frieza introduces himself and the tools that they use called Scouters. And he said that these must very well be a item of interest for the Tuffle race, as he has heard a lot from his father. But he knows that if they step out of line, he's thinking about this while he's on his ship, after everything goes much well, very much so more well than in canon, because the Saiyans actually had guns. And I'm pretty sure the Tuffles would try something similar, because they're stacked to the core. But since they're machine mutants, the Scouters wouldn't be able to pick them up. So I think Frieza would just sit this aside and just talk to Mew and like whatever Tuffles would be there. But when he's back on his ship, he begins to think, these scientific minds, maybe they've become too advanced. And even though they're no barbaric monkeys like the Saiyans, someday they could be a problem. But Frieza doesn't think too much on this. He doesn't think about the Super Saiyan or anything ridiculous like that, because they're just a peaceful, Tuffle, scientific genetic race. How bad could they be? Little does he know. Eventually, years later, Beerus introduces himself. And instead of King Vegeta for the whole pillow thing, it's Dr. Mew. And Legic, being an assassin, he rushes at Beerus, but Beerus just instantly Hawkeyes him, and Legic is erased. And now, Beerus knows that if an assassin for the scientific race is this out of control, and they possess such tools that this assassin has taken interest or partied with them, this is annoying and too much trouble. And unlike the Saiyans, he doesn't feel like it's the greater problem that it was with the Saiyans, or the fact that he just wants to destroy it. It would be died down to, like, maybe being a threat, just like Frieza was starting to pick up, and just Beerus not wanting to destroy it himself and telling Frieza to. Except Frieza would go less off of, because there's no Super Saiyan, but him and Beerus would agree on one thing: the planet is beginning to see too much scientific prowess and growth that could be a problem. And Frieza just agrees. And soon enough, him and his army make their way to Planet Plant. And when Dr. Mew finds out about this and that the planet is in danger about being blown up by Frieza, he knew the deal would not last. Of course, it had to be an offspring of Cold. So he uses his supercomputer to contact every single Tuffle on the planet. And he tells every single Tuffle all across Planet Plant to get every single weapon, blaster, energy ray, everything, arm every single freaking weapon, and rain fire. Protect the planet at all costs as Frieza begins to charge the supernova. And Dr. Mew points forward and he yells to his Tuffle army, "Rain fire!" And from Planet Plant, millions, and millions and billions of rays, blasts, guns, freaking energy rays, rockets, missiles, death rays, the whole package rain at Frieza's army, and a huge explosion reigns in the middle of space, almost engulfing the planet. And this actually destroys almost all of Frieza's army and forces Frieza to go to his 100% just to stay alive, because he was not expecting this at all. And he is furious. So he goes for another death ball, but unfortunately, it only destroys half, or maybe close to half of the planet, because the blast did so much damage and caught Frieza so off guard that he went to 100% just out of spite. Literally skip second, third, fourth, 50%, everything, just to stay alive. And it actually exerted almost all of his energy. So he barely had enough to actually, do this. And only half of the planet is destroyed. Cardinal Muchi Muchi goes to his ultimate form. Lord Lude is awakened at level 3, but Ginyu is alive and swaps bodies with Lude, and nobody expects a thing. The Sigma Force cannon is unleashed, but he is taken out. General Rildo goes to his ultimate form and engulfs the entire planet in metal. But then we get a 3 Frost Tyrant battle. Frieza, King Cold, and Cooler who arrives, because it's literally an explosion that would rock a huge amount of space, and that brings some, especially with this not being the Saiyans, I'm giving Cooler more ado here for about 3 seconds, because there's one weapon that the Frost Tyrants weren't expecting: the ultimate Tuffle backup plan. Hachiak and Baby are unleashed, and they both merge together into Baby Hachiak, just like Dragon Ball Heroes, and doing completely willingly. And with one single blast, Baby Hachiak wipes out every single Tuffle, Frost Tyrant, and being on the planet. I'm talking Dr. Mew, I'm talking Frieza, Cold, freaking Ginyu and Lude's body, General Rildo, talking freaking everybody. He wipes out everybody, because this backup plan, it was far more dangerous than a simple death ray. And it was the end of the Tuffle race, but just the beginning, as Baby Hachiak is not done. He wishes to control more, destroy more, and engulf more. And he flares his aura as Planet Tuffle begins to dissipate, wither away, and be destroyed. And he goes to begin his rampage in the next part, and a very dark future for Universe 7 and all.